how did 1/6 collecting change in 2022? Because we could talk about the Battle Droid, and if we have time, we still will. But it's just like, you know what? That was not even up for pre-order yet, as far as I've seen. So I want to talk about collecting in 2022 because we're at the end of the year. New Year's Eve is tomorrow night. Really excited about that. Gonna have a nice dinner with the fam. Hopefully, all you guys are gonna do some fun stuff. And yeah, I want to know what you guys think about this because things have changed, I think, pretty dramatically. And the reason I want to kind of bring up what has changed, I want to pull up Sideshow's kind of in-stock Hot Toys. One of the big things that I've seen has changed this year that I've never seen from Hot Toys before, and I've only, granted, been in this game like maybe 4 years, something like that. It's like, you know what? Everything's in stock. Everything's sitting. Everything's discounted. That's not happened really before from what I've seen. You don't have to pre-order shit. Now it's changed a little bit, but I think in 2022 alone, it's been like, it's gone from one extreme to the other. It's gone to, you can buy anything discounted to now you need a pre-order according to Sideshow, right? So it's gone all over the place. So I want to ask you guys, how did 1/6 collecting change in 2022? So Carlos, what do you think, man? Because I know you and I are still pretty new to collecting, a couple years in, right? And what do you think has been the biggest change in 2022? It's been a pretty wild year, I feel like.
The biggest change in 2022.
Yeah.
Damn. I will probably say understanding that whatever you buy, if you hold on to it for a little bit longer, you're going to probably be able to get it for significantly cheaper now, or that there's no resale value. I feel like that's probably been the biggest collecting change, just because I feel like in the past, and maybe I'm wrong about this because I collected and stopped and came back over the last couple of years, but it used to be like, oh, I'm going to get this Captain America and I'm going to keep it. It's going to go up in price. And when the next Captain America comes out, I'm going to sell this one and get the other one. So you can use your collection to fund your collection. That was always the thing that people would say. And I feel like in 2022, that's definitely not been the thing. It's been more of a don't pre-order, wait, only per the things you want, and things are going to get so cheap. And you really can use your collection to fund your collection just because things get so cheap. Like, I know, well, hopefully you don't mind me saying this, but I know you really, really want that Star-Lord from Volume 2, but you don't want to sell your Infinity War because it's worth like a fucking movie ticket. It's worth nothing at this
Pretty
point.
much, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. Like where before, you would use your collection to fund your collection. So I would say that's probably the biggest one, is making us stop and think more about it. Because if you bought this Captain Vaughn for $250 and you're like, oh, okay, this is cool, and there's nothing wrong if you bought it for that, and then 2 months later you're like, I don't want it. It's not worth $250. It's worth like fucking $200 or even less. So I will say maybe that's the biggest change. And yeah, like just things sitting forever. So yeah, what do you think? I guess,
bro. And look at Carlos' alter ego, right? Like,
yeah.
One figure that I thought would never be discounted is the Battle Damage Mark 85. It's $100 off on alter ego.
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest one.
That's insane. And the Boba Fett 2-pack is $120 off. I mean, and this is alter ego, and they do not really discount things as frequently before 2022. Mark actually CEO sent out an email recently. He was very transparent. That's why I love them, because he was very transparent. He just talked about how collecting has changed in 2022 and how it's going to change and readjust moving forward with smaller batches and such.
Yeah.
But I just think it's really interesting to look at this, and I'm just like, everything's going to be discounted. Like even this Batman, this is on here full retail for now. It probably won't be before long.
Yeah, because I actually have a retailer, and again, I won't say their name because I don't want to get them in trouble. But they've told me that every figure that comes in for Hot Toys, every single one, then they get it about 2 to 4 weeks after Sideshow will. They can sell it to me with no taxes and no shipping and 20% off just immediately. You know what I mean? But I'm like, sometimes that might not even be enough, because look at Rescue, right? Look at the Mark 85. Look at the Boba Fett 2-pack. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's true. Well, Kiko, what do you think, bro? I mean, how has collecting changed in 2022 for you? Because I know you've gone from day one to Sideshow and kind of back and forth. Like, what do you think has changed?
Well, I don't know where I'm eventually going to land when it comes to that as I continue to navigate those troubled waters. But I think in general that 1/6 collecting has really taken on almost a mainstream appeal. I think is that 1/6 collecting got really big during the pandemic because no one had anything to do. Avengers Endgame had just finished up, and people were really hype about, finding ways to remember the Infinity Saga. And so everyone really were like, oh, sweet. What is this? Hot Toys? These are really highly detailed, collector's pieces. And I think during the pandemic is that the 1/6 community really grew. And you look at people's subscriber numbers even, and, the Facebook pages, I mean, they just exploded exponentially. The Reddit threads of people just saying, hey, I'm new to collecting, new to collecting, new to collecting, new to collecting. So there's been an influx of new people into the hobby, which is awesome. But I think the thing about it is that they're coming into it at a time where things are very unstable. So you have a lot of new people in the community in an unsure market, an unsure hobby, and a lot of people coming and going, unfortunately, because they don't really know how to weather those storms. They're like, shit, if I'm going to get into this, do I need to expect 50 releases in 2 months? Because I'm not going to be able to, keep up with that.
Damn.
Or, hey, kind of what Carlos said, if I'm into this thing now and I can get it on Sideshow for $250, but okay, it's $185 somewhere else. How do I navigate this? And so there's a lot of people in the community just trying to find their way, I think, and trying to figure out what is best for them. Because people always say all the time, whenever they look at my collection or they talk to me or in general, they're like, how long you been collecting for? I was like, well, I've been collecting my whole life. And the whole thing about collecting is that it is a marathon. It's not like, I need everything right now, put it on my shelf and I'm done. And that's the other thing, is that once you put something on the shelf, you're never done. You continually collect, you move things in and move out. And so if there are new collectors into this 1/6 pool, if you want to call it that, and that's why for my channel plug, why I try to give so many things that hopefully can help and get people to think and rationalize the way they collect and how they collect and things like that. I think it's important to give as much information as you can, because this, as far as a hobby, is not a cheap hobby by any means. Yeah, there's discounts out there for sure. But at the end of the day, let's say you buy 5 figures, you're over $1,000 at that point that you could have put into something else. And it's not something that you kind of say, okay, I'm all in for 6 months and then be like, oh shit, I don't like this anymore, because that's an expensive lesson to learn if you're not really into it. So I think all those new people out there, the new influx of collectors in the 1/6 community, is watch these streams, join the groups, talk, ask questions. And that's one of the things I said in the little Joker video, is that the place for collecting is no criticism, no toxicity, no bad questions. If you have a question about something, or even in these threads or anything like that, just ask it. That way you don't make a stupid decision, essentially, because it's the stupid decisions that you make that pile up to where it makes you leave the hobby. And that's what I don't want. I don't want people leaving the hobby because they got burned or misinformed or something like that. So I think that's important, is that the thing about 2022 is that we're really reached a new level of collectors. That's awesome, but it does come with a lot of responsibility for those that kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you guys are spot on with this. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things I think that's changed, but one of them is, the influx of stock and the overabundance of stock. So it's just been something, I guess, to monitor, man. And like I said, it's a little bit uncertain times right now. It's uncertain waters, because like we talked about with Doc Ock, do you pre-order? Do you not pre-order? Before it was like, well, I damn sure I'm not pre-ordering, because I'm going to be penalized for pre-ordering. Because if I pay, if I pay full price, I'm going to look dumb, because like everything's been discounted. But now it's not the case anymore. I guess we're going to find out. But I think a lot of people, I mean, as long as you get the figures and you get it, a lot of people don't care because they got the figures. But it just stings a little bit, in 2022 when you bought that Iron Man for full price, and then now he's like $300. So you're like, well, I could have saved $150. Like, and that if I had just waited a couple months, right? So yeah, I mean, it's, that's kind of the things that people have to think about. But nowadays, I think that's going to change. I do think that's going to change. I think those days are numbered. I will say that. So yeah, I guess we're going to find out. But nonetheless, guys, let's move on to the next topic.